This is a Variety Sports Network production. Now to your host.
Well, to one of your hosts. Hey guys, how you doing? Here he is. This is Josh Edwards and Logan Stone.
Stall from me, Josh.
What?
Okay. Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of this seventh inning. Oh yeah, that was fun. Josh hit the clock on me too soon. Good Lord, that didn't feel like 30 seconds. Okay.
You said you were ready.
Well, yeah, I'm your host, Logan Stone, and with me, as always, is Josh Edwards. How are you doing, Josh?
Good, sir. Good, sir. How are you? How was your holiday weekend?
I didn't have a holiday weekend. I was
You were
working.
working the whole time.
Yeah, I've been working on this special episode for you, the people.
The stats are for the people.
Yeah. In case you guys didn't know, we've been making a big deal about this. We have the analytics episode, the episode that we've been promising for about 2 months now.
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I have done diligence on the work I have done, or diligent work, trying to bring all the facts I can do. But before we get into that, happy 4th of July. Okay. And before we get into that, there was something I wanted to talk. There's two somethings I wanted to talk about. And I need to pull up my photos. Oh, there was just one something. First something is this. So Cardinals were playing the Phillies on Sunday night on ESPN, ESPN 1, and ESPN 2. ESPN 2, they had the K-Rod podcast. Well, Michael K was not. The hell? Michael K was not on the podcast, or the broadcast, actually. It wasn't a podcast, but the broadcast the other night. So they had this Kevin Connors guy. Never heard of him. Nothing of real importance to me. So, but I'm watching the game because, it's Cardinals versus, and they're interviewing Ozzie Smith. And I'm like, oh, I want to watch Ozzie Smith. Ozzie Smith comes on, and you can barely hear him because they didn't give him any audio equipment, and then they decided to have the actual game on like full blast on the volume side, and it was just stupid beyond belief. The production was crap. And I was telling Brandon and Josh the other day on the text message because I was angry about it. And I said, this is stupid. They're going to get mad because there's no views on ESPN2 or the K-Rod cast. And then they're going to get mad and say, oh, well, baseball's just not popular because we had less views than the Manning cast, and then we're gonna have to hit. Oh, fuck that shit. No. Anyways, it just angers me, and it's like you put little quality in there, and then you expect it to be good, and everybody's just gonna watch it because it's ESPN2 and it's A-Rod, everybody's least favorite baseball player of all time, which isn't an exaggeration. He is. I mean, even Yankees fans hate him. And then Michael K, who only half the baseball fans actually know. And then they bring Ozzie out, and he has low volume. You can barely hear him, and then they have to keep interrupting him because the half inning ends like every 5 seconds. And so they bring Nelly out, and Nelly is better with audio-wise, but it's still bad quality. Why can't they get a guy to come in and engineer at the players' houses? I know it's going to cost you extra money, but it's so much better production wise. Anyways, Josh, did you get a chance to watch the ESPN game? And am I overblowing it, or are you pissy about it?
Well, I wouldn't say I was. I would. I wouldn't say I was. I mean, yeah, I was upset about it. I mean, I was disappointed. I mean, we haven't had one of those yet. I've watched. I mean, we had a couple Sunday night games, and I I don't care for A Rod, and the Manning cast is something that I'm going to say this and it's going to come across wrong. I think the Manning cast for football is something that's really special that football has.
Oh yeah,
and
because
ESPN is trying to piggyback on it, and they're doing a horrible job. Like, it's just trash.
well,
A Rod is not likable.
Well, the
Go ahead.
Manning cast works because first, Eli and Peyton have tremendous chemistry,
Oh yeah,
and they're having an actual conversation. Whereas A Rod is just trying to be, I don't know, something stupid.
it feels forced.
Yeah, it's a forced chemistry, and it just doesn't work.
It's not genuine at all. So I mean, and I've never been a fan of A Rod as a person. I mean, yeah, he was a great player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting his ability and what he did in the game. I don't find A Rod very interesting. He's not very intriguing. He doesn't. Nothing screams to me, hey, come watch this, because A Rod's doing commentary and talking. The other guy they had on was just not good. They should have had Kirchkin on or somebody else who's a more reputable or a more well-known baseball guy. Hell, have Buster Olney on for that. I mean, it'll be so much better. I mean, actually, if they just got rid of A Rod and did Tim Kirchkin and Buster Olney, that'd be a better show. But the Manning cast is something that's just so special and so unique, and the way it is produced and done, and it's produced so well. And ESPN is just trying to piggyback off of that and make extra money, and it shows a lack of originality and a lack of ability to get the job done correctly, in my opinion. So disappointed with the production value of it, yeah, because everybody knows Ozzie Smith, everybody loves Ozzie Smith. At least in my part of the world, or let's say
It's
my
hard
part
to
of the
find
US.
anyone who doesn't like. Maybe Tony La Russa, but that's about it.
Maybe, but I think even at this point that'd be pushed to the side.
Yeah.
But for them to blow that kind of an interview with that kind of a historic, legendary baseball figure, ridiculous. But I really didn't even click over to it until you started letting us know that it was horrible. So I flipped over and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see what he's saying. And I would have to say you were correct. Maybe not to the extent that you were upset. I wouldn't say I was upset. I was as upset to the extent that you were, but definitely disappointed with the production value overall. ESPN could and should do much better.
Yeah, and it just angers me because of the excuse that they're going to use at the end of the year, which is, oh, baseball's not popular anymore, and so we're gonna have to stop using, we're gonna not cover baseball as much because no one's watching our stuff, and we obviously are the kings of everything. Which that was true about 20 years ago when Stuart Scott and Eisen and we're all on there, and who's it?
I would say even
10 Anderson. 10 years ago, yeah. I mean, I still like Stephen A. Smith, but he doesn't do baseball. But anyways,
he's all right.
This
is not a wreck on ESPN episode.
Yeah.
Much as I could do an hour and a half of how much I hate ESPN.
I'm sure you could.
Might get kicked off the airwaves, but
yeah. I remember what the other thing was. I want to talk about the Guardians real quick. Before we get into
yours, my friend.
The Guardians. We had 0 to no expectations for them this season. No expectations. We were expecting them to trade Jose Ramirez, and then they signed him to an extension, $100 million extension for 5 years, I believe it was. Which they got a monster deal on that because, Jose Ramirez wanted to be on the Guardians. They're 40-39, just barely over 500, but they have a tremendous pitching staff. Their offense has been doing really well, and we had them at the bottom of the the league to begin the year. Like we had no expectations on this, and obviously, you know, the Royals, the Tigers, and the White Sox are underperforming. But I mean, still, they're still over 500. They have now they have a negative run differential, but I mean, they're still doing pretty good. They have a good offense. I can't remember what their things are, but do you have any or what their stats are at the moment? But do you have anything about the Guardians you want to talk about? Like, just are you blown away? Are you
I'm surprised.
happy? Yeah.
I'm just surprised overall, especially Ramirez sticking around and staying. Really caught me off guard, like you and I discussed. I think he really summed it up pretty well on both our accounts because this is one of the teams we agreed on. We didn't expect much out of. We didn't think much was going to happen. They're playing much better. They're at least making the AL Central a little more interesting to pay attention to because we thought it was going to be nothing this year. So, I mean, good for the Guardians, good for the fans of Cleveland. They have nothing to root for anymore with everything that's going on with their NFL team. Just being a hot garbage fire, trash, dumpster fire. But good for the Guardians. It gives the people of Cleveland something to look forward to and pay attention to. And, you know, for me, this is all about the fans, and I want to see the fans be appreciated and have something to enjoy. So I'm happy for the fans of the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah. It's still hard for me to get out of my mouth. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I do have to retract my statement that their offense has been good. They are 23rd in OPS, 14th in average, and 21st in on base percentage. So
it's all pitching.
It is all pitching. Before I get into the analytics, do you want to do an ad read?
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, you know, you totally need to check out our merch store at bonfire.com/store/variety-sports-podcast. Oh, my God, that's so long, and I'm never going to be able to say it any kind of shorter, so I do apologize. But go check out all our merch. We got all of our new stuff for the Variety Sports Network out there. I honestly haven't checked it in a couple days, so I don't know if the Variety Sports Podcast, we'll call it our vintage
network
merch, is still out there. But go pick up the new VSN network. Still got stuff for Sunday drivers, Between the Uprights, Seventh Inning Stretch, and all of our other great shows. We got a lot of content coming, so there's going to be a lot more merch coming out for all the different shows and all the new shows we have going on. You can pick up one of our shirts that's specifically designed and made for tonight's show. Unfortunately, my face is featured on it, so we can use that as a joke. Or you can buy it and wear it in support of us. Logan didn't want to be on the shirt, but go check out that shirt. It's on our page on bonfire.com/store/variety-sports-podcast. Go check it out. Help us to help you. You guys make a purchase. The money all goes back directly to the company. Nobody here is taking any of the profit margins. It's going back to get us all better cameras, better mics, and to be able to keep providing you guys more extensive coverage of all your favorite sports leagues, teams, and everything else that we have to do with sports when it comes to stories.
As you're reading that, good job, by the way. And the stat that the shirt that you're talking about is pretty great. I love it. I helped design it, and I love it every day. But Mad Max
totally made it. You and Brandon. It was totally you and Brandon the whole way.
Yeah. But Max Scherzer made his first start since coming off the IL today, and he was pitching against the Reds. He went 6 innings, only allowed 2 hits, no runs, and struck out 11, no walks. Mad Max is something else. Anyways, okay, let's get into this.
Before you start, I want to let the people know Logan has worked extremely hard on this episode, not only because I am not a big fan of advanced analytics, but a lot of people have the same views that I do on them. Logan is trying to convert me over at least into a spot of appreciation for the advanced analytics. So he has worked extremely hard on this. We're going to give him a lot of personal screen time here. So I'm still here. I'm listening to everything. Make sure you're paying attention. He's doing this to help us out so we can appreciate the game better and we can grow as a sports family. So I'm looking forward to listening to this. I'm not going to have a lot of input unless I end up having a question live on air, and then you guys get to see that not even we know everything. We're still learning as we grow and do this. So, Logan, I'm kicking it over to you. I'm going to mute. If you need something, let me know.
Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. Today has been a long time coming. Josh and I have been talking about doing this kind of a show for a while now, and I planned to do it nearly in early May, but I didn't feel like I was ready for it. So we finally felt like we were ready to do this episode today. Analytics is a mixed bag for baseball fans. Some fans have embraced analytics like me, while some old school fans have looked at analytics and thought it was a horrible blemish on the game. I see myself somewhere in the middle of the pack. I've always had a saying when it came to analytics that went, some baseball teams look at analytics as a strategy when it should be looked at as a tool. Analytics should be used as a tool. It is a great and useful tool when done correctly. Teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, who use analytics to run their entire game plan, is a gross misrepresentation of what analytics should be in my mind. The first thing that comes to, I think, all of our minds when it comes to analytics is Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell out of the sixth inning in the 2020 World Series. That was based off of a stat that he does terribly against the third or when facing the lineup the third time or something. May have been the right call in the long run, but the way Blake Snell was going, it just, there's so many variables. Like some nights Blake Snell could have taken that. He could have gone all the way. They could have ended up winning that game too, or game also. And it just didn't end up working that way. And now analytics has kind of a bad name because of Kevin Cash and the Tampa Bay Rays. There are thousands of different types of analytics, and to try to go over all of them in one episode is impossible. I'm not a professor of mathematics or a statistician. What I am is a fan who loves the game so much that I love to enjoy the stats of the game also. What my goal of this episode is to help other fans better understand what analytics does and how it can be useful. If you don't care to look at statistics and prefer to just watch the game, that is fine. I'm not trying to get you to start looking at OPS plus and BABIP and launch angle and all this stuff. What I'm trying to do is my goal is just to help you understand the analytics that are most popular for today. Like I said before, I can only go through a handful of statistics today, and we'll probably go into more in a future episode. I believe that baseball has done a terrible job at trying to get fans into analytics. This is why I am so eager to make this episode. When looking at stats, you need to be careful. You cannot look at one stat and understand a player completely. It's more like a puzzle. You have to grab certain statistics in order to get a real good grasp of a player. One stat can be misleading, and we will have examples to try to help you understand how it is. Before we get too far in, I do have to say that things like wins and losses cannot be a way to judge a player. More specifically, a pitcher, basically. You'll hear me talk about pitchers and some stats that have way too many variables that are out of the pitcher's control. This is a huge problem that I see old school fans use to judge a player, and that is simply idiotic. A pitcher can give up one run in a first inning and still get the loss because the offense didn't put up any runs. Or maybe a pitcher doesn't give up any runs but doesn't get the win because the next pitcher gives up the lead, and therefore the starter's chances of getting a win is null and void. Wins and loss records have no importance in the game of baseball, and anyone who judges a pitcher based on that does not understand baseball. That was a little bit of a throwaway note. I wasn't going to go too deep into that. But anyways, Josh, do you have any questions so far? He's muted.
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Okay.
I love
Now,
your opening
before we get
explanation, though.
Okay, good. I'm glad because I spent about 5 minutes on it. Anyways, so before we get into batting average, I do want to explain two other things: plate appearances versus at bats. Plate appearances is every time a player comes to the plate, no matter what outcome happens. Plate appearance is a walk, hit by pitch, sac fly, or a sac bunt, or interference. Okay, so no matter what the hitter does, it counts as a plate appearance. A plate appearance is an at bats are when a batter puts a ball in play. A walk does not count as an at bat. At bat is a hit, out, reaching on an error, or a fielder's choice. Okay, so this is just kind of an outlier of what we have to understand in order to get to understand the stats I'm about to talk about. So, okay, so batting average. Wow. Batting average is hits divided by at bats. At bats, not plate appearances, which is a big difference, as I said before. An average batting average is 240. Over 300 is really good, and anything over 330 is amazing. We see Albert Pujols, Bryce Harper, Mike Trout. They all do over 330, and it's their greatness. Batting average is just to see the batter's ability to hit the ball, nothing more. The two biggest reasons why statisticians do not like to use batting average is because it does not include walks or hit by pitches, and it states that all hits are equal. We'll learn later that not all hits are created equal. A guy on YouTube, on a YouTube video I was watching to help with this video had a great comparison to show why batting average is not a good stat to look at on its own. He took Bryce Harper and D. Gordon's stats from 2015. D. Gordon had a 333 batting average, while Bryce Harper had a 330 batting average. On the surface, it looks like D. Gordon had a slightly better year than Bryce Harper. But if you looked at their on-base percentage or slugging, you would clearly see that Harper is far and away the better player. Really, that's why I don't like to use batting average. It doesn't really show anything. It shows how you're able to hit the ball. I believe D. Gordon had a 320 on base percentage that year, and Bryce Harper had a 420, which is obviously amazing. You would rather have an on base person than that. So, anyways, good on that. Any questions about batting average? Nope. Good. On base percentage. Oh, I skipped one thing. I have said multiple times in the show that I hate batting average, and if I could get rid of it, I would. The reason I don't like it is because fans like to make it the end-all, be-all of stats, and it really doesn't show how good a hitter truly is. Anyways, so on-base percentage. On-base percentage measures how frequently a batter reaches base. The formula to calculate on-base percentage is walks plus hit by pitches divided by at-bats plus walks plus hit by pitches plus sac flies. An average on-base percentage is 320. Anything below that is below average. Nothing. 319. You're below average. You're not getting on base, so that's not good. 360 is considered above average. Really good. Really good player. Does this stat give you everything you need to know about the hitter? No, but it definitely gives you a better understanding of the batter. It definitely is a better stat to look at than batting average. It's important because if you don't get on base, then you're not contributing to your team's success. It sounds a little stupid to say it like that, but it's really the most simple way to put it. It's just not it's better. It's better in my opinion, and I think if you were going to judge someone based on one statistic, I would put on base percentage over batting average. It's a famous Billy Bean quote. He gets on base a lot. Do I care if it's a walk or a hit? No, you do not. Anyways, slugging percentage. Slugging percentage represents the total number of bases a player records per at bat. Unlike on base percentage, slugging percentage deals only with hits, and does not include walks and hit by pitches in its equation. It is different than batting average because it looks at what kind of hits a batter is getting and doesn't treat each hit equally. The formula for slugging percentage is a single counts as 1 point, a double counts as 2 points, a triple counts as 3 points, and a home run counts as 4. It's pretty easy. Pretty easy. And they divide it by at bats. An average slugging is 390. Like I said, anything below that, you're not doing okay, which is not good. So, slugging percentage is still one of the best evaluators of power because it accounts for more than just home runs. Okay. On-base percentage plus slugging percentage, or better known as OPS. All it is adding on-base percentage and slugging. An average OPS is 710. Anything in the 600s is below average. 800 is really good. 900 is great. 1,000 is top-tier player. It's the best of both worlds. It takes the best of the on-base percentage and slugging and makes it a nice stat, in my opinion. I love the OPS. It's one of my favorite stats because of this reason. On-base plus slugging is really good. If there's no one stat that you should always look at to judge a player, it is this stat. The negatives of slugging and on-base percentage are taken care of with this stat. Now, I say that, but then I also want to say, there are some players who are just contact hitters who do not have a great slugging percentage. And so they'll have a little bit less of an OPS. So that's my thing about it. What?
So what you're trying to tell people are these are part of the pieces of the puzzle to understand statistics to figure out which batters are the best on the teams and in the league, correct?
Yeah. Why?
I'm recapping for you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought you were going to ask a question.
Well, no, because
I was getting ready for a fight.
One question I wanted to go back was no fight. So I know you hate batting average. So do you find it completely useless in today's game? Like completely useless, or do you at least let it contribute to the fact of the contact and the ability to get on base?
I do not consider it completely useless. I just do not believe. I don't believe that it helps determine, because a person can get a hit. If I went up to the plate, 1,000 times, and all I got were singles, and it's not really helpful, in my opinion. But if you have a 330 batting average, then in the old school way of thinking, oh, hey, this guy's really good. But if all I get is on like a single, then that's not really helpful, which is kind of a double-edged sword, in my opinion. I don't know. It's just, I don't think it's completely useless. I just don't think that people need to use it as a stat to say, oh, this player is good. Oh, this player is bad. I keep forgetting what I was going to say about. But
so we consider it a smaller piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, we talk about the slash line, which is batting average, on base percentage, or slugging, and that's a better representation of the kind of the puzzle pieces, as I've been saying. But it's not. I don't even want to look at batting average. I would much rather look at OPS and OPS plus and on base percentage. Because I feel like on base percentage looks at everything. It looks at the walks. It looks at so in kind of a weird way, I think it does kind of render the batting average kind of obsolete. And we talked about Yasmani Grandal, who had a terrible batting average for most of his career, but he has great on base percentage and great slugging and great OPS because he walks a lot, but he also, he hits bombs, and whenever he does get a hit, he produces a lot. So yeah, it's weird. I don't like to use it if at all possible, in my opinion.
It's fair enough. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
You are the professor on today's episode, so
Yeah.
I'm basically just trying to play the role of student, and where my mind is working, have you answer my questions as we go through this, because I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world thinking these questions out loud. And by the way, if you guys have a question or you got a comment, make sure you message us in. We can answer them live on air. Or if you want to challenge any of Logan's points, make sure you shoot us a message in, and I will push it over to Logan so he can read it and get you an answer as quickly as possible. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
You're fine. Well, hello there. Okay.
Well, wrong button.
I guess you're the professor now. No. So yeah, OPS. If like I said, I think it's a very important stat. I think honestly, your slash line should be on base percentage, OPS, and OPS plus. And I'll get into OPS plus in a second, but those are the stats that I think you should always look at. Slugging is important, but I think that gets covered in OPS. On base percentage, I think, is you just get it. You're able to look at it. And so, yeah. Okay. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. So, ever since 2002, obviously, with the Billy Bean Moneyball thing, we kind of always heard about how batting averages have gone down, significantly over the last 10, 15 years. And I think this is attributable to the analytics. Baseball teams and baseball players have understood that, batting average is not as important as it needs to be. What's more important is taking pitches and getting on base actually, instead of just using, what is it? How am I trying to say it? What am I trying to say, Josh? You got to help me out here real quick.
You're talking about how that the batting averages have dropped.
Yeah.
And it's played an important. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they just found more importance in the other stats. And so even though their batting averages have gone down, their slugging, their OPS, and their OPS pluses have gone up. And so they just put their resources into better stats. And so that is my theory as to why batting average has gone down. You see, 20 years ago, we saw a whole bunch of players with over 300 batting averages. And now we hardly see, we see about 3-4 people in today's game who have over 300 batting average. So there's that. Okay, so OPS plus. OPS plus takes the player's on-base plus slugging percentage and normalizes the number across the entire league. It accounts for external factors like ballparks. It then adjusts so a score of 100 is a league average. And 150 is a 50% better than a league average. And 150 is 50% better than the league average. So what that means is if the league average OPS is 800 and a player, so that's what the 100 OPS plus is going to be. It's going to be any player with an OPS of 800. And so if you have a 150 OPS plus, that means you have a 50%. You're playing 50% better than any of the other players in the league. So that's really good. OPS plus average is 100. Anything less is under average. If you have a 99 OPS plus, you are below average. Anything above is above average. It is a part of the plus stats, which makes it easier to compare players to their peers, but also players across all eras. So if I wanted to know how comparable Juan Soto was to Stan Musial, then I would look at it as OPS plus. It also takes into consideration the park factor, whether they're playing in a hitter's ballpark or a pitcher's ballpark. The altitude of the ballpark, like Coors Field, has a different effect on a hitter than Globe Life Park does. OPS Plus tries to take all of this into account and make an easier way to compare players past and present. It's a very cool stat once you get to really understand it. So there's that. That's all the batting stats I wanted to cover today. Obviously, there are hundreds of others, but this is the cores that I wanted to talk about today. I'm about to go into the pitching one. Do you have any other questions about batting statistics or OPS or OPS plus? And if not, do you want to do an ad read?
So before I do our next ad read, for all of us out here who are simple-minded folk or who are learning advanced analytics,
okay,
I understand what OPS versus OPS plus is, but how do you get a number for OPS that's like 800 and your OPS is only like 125?
OPS plus?
Yes, sorry, OPS plus.
Oh, yeah. So, like I said,
explain that one more time.
Okay, so 800, let's say that 800 is the league OPS. Every hitter on average is hitting 800, has an 800 OPS. Okay, so say Nolan Arenado has okay, wait, hold on. So 800 OPS is the league average. Okay. Brandon's being a dick. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, Brandon. You're helpful. But I'm talking right now, so don't interrupt me. I'm sorry. I love you, Brandon. Don't fire me yet.
I got to take a hit for that one. I'm the one controlling the camera.
800 is the average OPS. Yeah, I know, right? It's okay. But, and so that means that everyone has an OPS plus of 100. Okay? Because 800 is the OPS. So if Nolan Arenado has a 150 OPS plus, that means he's 50% better than the average. So the average can go down. It can be 650, and he could have a great OPS plus then. It's really hard to kind of, which is why I'm trying to explain it as good as I could, but it just means he's 50% better than the other players right now.
So OPS can fluctuate season to season for what is good and average.
Well, no. A regular like an OPS average needs to be 710.
Okay.
But
that's where I mixed it up. Okay.
Yeah. But the league average, what every player is at, can fluctuate. So, like, I think last year's OPS average was 745 or something like that. And so, if you had an 850 OPS, when the average was 745, then you had you had a tremendous year. You had like a 175 OPS plus, I think it was. I was going to put the formula for it, but it's just it's gibberish basically. So
there you guys hear it. Logan just admitted the formulas for some of these statistics are absolute gibberish. but they make perfect sense when you put them into play and you take all the
Yeah.
pieces and put them together to get the puzzle and make the puzzle the way you want it to look.
Yeah.
All right, so let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Row One Brand. Row One Brand features tons of vintage sports artwork. They have an art gallery, which if you pick up some items out of the art gallery when you get to checkout, you put in our code VSP15. That gets you 15% off any of your art gallery selections. But they don't just have art gallery selections. They have mugs. They have T-shirts. They have all other a bunch of assortment of other cool vintage graphics, from baseball to college football to pro football, everything in between. It's all vintage. It looks super, super cool. Lots of great gifts idea for your family members, your grandparents, your moms, your dads, your brothers, your sisters, your girlfriends, your father-in-laws, your future father-in-laws, anybody who's a sports lover, who's been a sports lover for a long time, especially maybe for the greatest generation that's ever lived in America, referring to the baby boomers. There's a lot of cool vintage artwork back to them. So go ahead, check out Row One Brand. When you get anything out of the art gallery, when you go to checkout, put in our code VSP15. That gets you 15% off anything out of the art gallery. Again, check out Row One Brand.
We are not friends with the baby boomers.
Okay, so the baby boomers or the baby boom produced some of the best baseball players that ever lived, which we idolize. So we have to give them that credit.
A little bit of credit.
And not just baseball players. Humanitarians.
I hate humanitarians.
Football players. Basketball players.
I hate all of them.
You don't. Jesus Christ.
No.
He hates Michael Jordan, ladies and gentlemen. He hates Larry Bird.
Whoa.
That's what you just said.
Whoa.
That's what you just said.
Hey.
You hate Stan the Man Musial.
He was not a baby boomer.
What year was he born?
He came into the big leagues in 42.
Oh, that's right. He's not a baby boomer. He just played for the baby boomers. My apologies.
That's more of like, who is it? Not even Bob Gibson was a baby boomer. Because he was a little early for that, I think.
It depends on what age he was when he came into the game. The baby boom started in 45.
Yeah, he's way too old for that. I think it was 30s. Anyways, okay, so pitching. Moving on to the pitching side of things. ERA or earned run average. Earned run average represents the number of earned runs a pitcher allows per 9 innings. With earned runs being any runs that are scored without the aid of an error or a pass ball. ERA is the most commonly accepted statistical tool for evaluating pitchers. The formula for finding ERA is 9 times earned runs divided by innings pitched. If a pitcher exits a game with runners on base, any earned runs scored by those runners will count against him. An average ERA is 4. Anything between 2 and 3 is amazing. 3 to 4 is average. Okay. It's a nice stat to look at because obviously as a pitcher, your goal is to keep runs from scoring, and an ERA is a helpful stat to look at for pitchers. Yes, Josh.
So you're telling me ERA, which is an antiquated stat, is still good?
I'm about to get into the negatives of it, which is kind of the thing for all pitching stats, which I'm about to get into, but it's kind of like the best of kind of some evils. Speaking of the devil, that being said, the thing about pitching statistics is that there are so many variables that go into a pitcher's game. Bad defense, bad umpiring, what stadium he's pitching in, etc. So many variables that are outside of the pitcher's control that may hurt them and their ERA, which is why I don't believe ERA is the end-all be-all of pitching stats. You just have so many things. If you have the worst defense behind you, then your ERA is going to look a heck of a lot different than if you have the best defense behind you. And it's how it is. And obviously, like some umpires, they're going to throw, like we talked about, some balls are just out of the strike zone and they call it a strike, or sometimes the ball is like right in the middle and the umpire calls it a ball. So there's a lot of variables, which is why I kind of get uneasy, or not uneasy, but worried about just using a singular stat for pitchers. WHIP, walks and hits per inning pitched. The formula is simple: walks plus hits divided by innings pitched. WHIP is one of the most commonly used statistics for evaluating a pitcher's performance. Statistic shows how well a pitcher has kept runners off the base paths. Of his main goals, which is one of his main goals, obviously. An average is 130. One or under is excellent. It's really a deep dive into the pitcher, into what a pitcher does per inning. ERA looks at a pitcher's stats every 9 innings, and a WHIP looks at a pitcher in each inning. It's not necessarily better or worse than ERA, but it's a very important stat to look at nonetheless. Same as ERA, WHIP has a lot of variables to it also that might influence the stat. Things that the pitcher may not always be able to control. However, it is a better determining factor in how good a pitcher is than ERA, in my opinion. ERA is still very important, but I think you also need to look at WHIP just a little bit more, in my idea. Fielding independent pitching, which is a stat that I really like, or FIP. Measures what a player's ERA would look like over a given period of time if the pitcher were to have experienced league average results on balls in play and league average timing. An average FIP is 420. The formula is, I'm not even going to do it because there's so many words. The formula is 13 times home runs plus 3 times walks minus 2 times K, or strikeouts, divided by innings pitched plus constants. Yeah,
Where do they come up with the 13?
I don't know. I don't even know.
I was just curious. Anyways, I didn't know if you found that when you were doing all your research. It's like 13. That's a random number.
Yeah, I have no idea why. They kind of talked about it, and I was like, I'm not even gonna cover this, so it's whatever. FIP is more accurate than ERA. It really looks at what the pitcher's fault looks like, or looks at what is actually the pitcher's fault, I should say. Strikeouts, home runs, hit by pitches, walks, things that are in the pitcher's control. It removes any balls in play scenarios that could be mishandled by a defense. It is a good stat to look at with ERA. It really is a good indicator to see how reliable the ERA really is. If the FIP is lower than the ERA, then it is pretty safe to say that the pitcher is not being helped by his defense. Whereas if a pitcher's FIP is higher than his ERA, then the pitcher is more to blame than the defense. FIP has become one of my favorite pitching stats for this reason. It is a good gauge to see how good a pitcher really is. It is not something you should look at by itself. Though. It is meant to be looked at with ERA and WHIP together. So you need the slash line because, like I said, there are so many variables in ERA and WHIP, and then FIP is helpful, but it also it still needs to be gauged with WHIP and ERA. You should not look at any of these numbers individually because you will not be able to understand a pitcher better. you need to look at these three, in my opinion. Actually, these four. I'm about to get into the next stat, but they're all important to look at together. Yes, Josh.
What's a good average, or rephrase? What's an average FIP? What's a better than average FIP? And what's a below average FIP?
So 420 is the average. Nice. Anything below that, 4 is above average. 360 is about really good. And then obviously like 2s are just outstanding. And then anything above, I think 460 is very poor. So you want to get it low because it's basically ERA, but a cleaner ERA. That's how you need to look at it.
Cool.
I should say that some people have said that 420 is is what an average should be, and then some other people say that 375 should be an average. So anywhere in that range is about average. So there's that. Okay, ERA plus adjusted earned run average. ERA plus takes a player's ERA and normalizes it across the entire league. It accounts for external factors like ballparks and opponents. It then adjusts. ERA plus is basically the same as OPS plus, except it's for pitching, obviously. 100 is average, so to score 100 is the league average, and 150 is 50% better than the league average. It's made to be easier to compare pitchers to each other and see how good they really are. For example, Mariano Rivera's 2.21 career ERA was 105% better than the MLB average during the time he pitched, including adjustments for ballpark and league. That gives him a 2.05 career ERA plus, the best all time. Another example is Jacob deGrom's ERA plus in 2018. So if you can stall for me because I forgot to pull that stat up real quick.
You know what's so funny?
What?
I literally just had that up on my screen and closed the window because I was looking at it. So I wish we
ERA
were
plus?
going there. Yeah, I literally just had the ER plus up.
Yeah.
No, so we want a good combination of ERA and FIP and WHIP all together, correct? That's
Yes.
kind of like the perfect trifecta to really rate a pitcher. And the ERA plus is more like your bonus stat.
Yeah, it's gravy. Yeah, it's more like gravy at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jacob deGrom had, let's see, he started 32 games, and he had 10 wins and 9 losses. You would think that like he's not doing well for that year, but that's just because he was on a sucky team. That was the Mets, and back in 2018, they were sucky. So, but he had a 2.18 ERA plus, which is 118% better than the average pitcher, and it shows that in his stats. So, which is another reason why I don't like wins and losses records, because and they always want to talk about most valuable player or not Cy Young award, and they want to say, oh well, he has only 10 wins. He can't be because he wasn't helpful to his team. Well, he was helpful to his team, but his team wasn't helpful to him. And that's evident in this ERA plus thing. And you're able to compare him to a guy like Pedro Martinez back in 1995, where Pedro Martinez had a 2.18 ERA plus and or 200 ERA plus, and Jacob deGrom had a 2.18, so they were just barely above each other. So it's really cool that's an easier way to compare players past and present, but also looking at your peers too. So yeah, I like ERA plus, I like OPS plus. Those are really good stats. and it's meant to be an easier way to read stats for the average fan, because everyone knows 100 is good or average, and then all you have to say is, oh, he has 150. Okay, well, that's good. And this goes back to another thing that I said before is MLB has done a terrible job at showing fans like how to read stats and how to understand these stats. And it's disappointing because now all these stats have terrible stinges, or it has a bad smell to it. Yeah, reputations. And it's disappointing because these stats are really cool to look at. And it's really cool to compare Jacob deGrom to Bob Gibson in 1968, or, Bob Feller or somebody else like that. It's a cool stat to look at. Anyways, and then the last one I want to talk about, WAR. WAR. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
At least in baseball.
And I have
according to you.
Yeah, I have 2 pages of WAR shit I want to talk about. So, WAR measures a player's value in all facets of the game by deciphering how many more wins he's worth than a replacement level player at his same position. For example, if a shortstop and a first baseman offer the same overall production on offense, defensive base, and the base paths, the shortstop will have a better WAR because his position sees a lower level of production from replacement level players.
Explain.
Okay, so
explain a replacement level player first off.
Okay,
for
so
all of our viewers.
Okay,
and
so
then explain that last statement.
Well, look at Mike Trout, who had like a 6.8 WAR last year, I believe it was, or not last year, but 2 years ago. Compared to some backup guy, say Joe Adell. I don't know anything about Joe Adell, but say Joe Adell replaced him in a game once. It's just basically saying, do you have a better chance of winning with Joe Adell or Mike Trout?
Mike Trout all day long.
And yeah, and do they have better? How many wins does Mike Trout give you versus Joe Adell? And obviously the answer is Mike Trout. The next that I'll get to in just a second. So let me just continue first. Any other questions?
No, continue.
Okay. There are many issues with WAR that I have. First of all, there are 2 separate versions of WAR: B WAR and F WAR. Do you know what the difference is?
No, I didn't even know there were 2 different types, to be honest with you. I just knew WAR.
Yeah.
And I knew what WAR stood for, but I didn't know there was a B WAR and an F WAR.
Yes. Yeah. B WAR stands for Baseball Reference WAR, and F WAR stands for Fangraphs WAR.
Hold on. Yeah. Fangraphs has their own WAR?
Yeah. Yeah. They have 2 different ways to calculate WAR. Fangraphs is owned by MLB, which kind of weirds me out, especially given the fact that the owners wanted to base a player's contract value on their Fangraphs WAR last year during the lockout.
Oh, that's what that was all about.
Yeah. And
I didn't look into it. I heard about it, and I just didn't pay a whole lot of attention, to be honest.
That's another thing, and I'll get into this because I mean, because if MLB controls what the evaluation of a WAR is, then they can do whatever they want to fix it, and underpay a player if they wanted to. And luckily the players were smart enough to be like, no, we're not doing that. We're not gonna base our contracts, our contract value on our WARs that you own and you, yeah. So there's that. So yeah, there's, I don't like that. I don't like that part. Another issue is that WAR varies from position to position. A shortstop will have a higher WAR than a first baseman because the shortstop has a more athletic job to do. So at the beginning of the year, I think I mentioned this before. We had some fans who were saying Paul DeYoung is doing better than Paul Goldschmidt because he has a .4 WAR, whereas Paul Goldschmidt has a .1 WAR, and so nice. And that the thing is that you have to look at the WAR at the end of the year. You can't look at it at the beginning of the year, which is another reason why I don't like it. And Paul DeYoung plays shortstop, which is a very athletic position. It's been a very athletic position. You have so much to do, whereas the first baseman, you don't really have much control. Like if you miss a ball, then you don't really have to. It doesn't really go against your WAR, or it doesn't really do anything for your WAR. If you catch a ball, hold on. If you're a first baseman and you catch a ball, it doesn't really help your WAR that much. Whereas if you're a shortstop and you get a ground ball and you can throw it to second and then they can throw it to first, then you get a better WAR. And it varies from position to position. Center fielder's WAR is going to get judged differently than a shortstop's WAR. And a center fielder and a left fielder is going to be separated. Catcher's WAR is going to be separate than a third baseman. And so there's not really a way for you to get a good draw a good conclusion to compare different players. It's not made to do that, and that's another thing.
So would you categorize WAR as a position-specific stat? And that would make it useful, wouldn't it?
Kind of, but you would, like, you can't compare a shortstop to a first baseman.
Right, but but
you could get a shortstop to another
right now.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. But that's another thing is Paul DeYoung played 20 games at shortstop, whereas Tommy Edman played 60 games at shortstop, and then and so it's just it's not really even a stat. It's more of a barometer, I guess people would call it. But and then this is another thing. Pitching wars are hard too because it matters what park you play at. If a pitcher at Coors Field has the same exact stat as a guy in St. Louis, they have different wars because of where they are pitching. It tries to grade a player's offense and defense, but just becomes a mess. The fact that there are multiple versions of WAR is why I give no value to this stat and why I don't like to ever use it.
Well, that's fair enough. But isn't that already taken into consideration in ERA plus? Because doesn't ERA plus, didn't you say that takes into consideration the ballpark?
Yes, it does, but it equalizes it basically. So if you're a pitcher in Coors Field, it takes that into consideration, your altitude and where you're at and the altitude and where the dimensions are and all this other stuff. Whereas in St. Louis, it doesn't really have much of a altitude problem. But WAR, I can't remember exactly what it does, but it doesn't do that. It does something completely different with it. Like, it doesn't gauge it as well. And it's an old school thing. And it just kind of, that one is one I would just destroy. I don't like WAR.
So here's the score count. If we were going to get rid of statistics, WAR is the one stat Logan would definitely get rid of.
Yeah, even above
followed by batting average.
Yeah. And batting average and WAR. See, that's the thing is I just don't like it because I think fans use it and they don't know why they're using it. They just know, oh, you're supposed to use this. And they just don't understand it fully. And so that's the only reason why I don't like batting average and WAR. Or batting average. I don't like WAR because there's just so much of a mess in there. Like, did you know that there were 2 different WARs?
No, you already asked me that, and I said no.
Sorry, I totally forgot.
B
But-
War and F War.
Yeah,
Baseball Reference and fan
Fangraphs.
graphs. See, I was paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a good student.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, there's all that. More shit. More ways than one. That concludes my lecture today. Obviously, I would want to go into bad bib, ISO. What I always forget what the catching stat is that I've started
framing?
liking. Oh yeah, OOA or OAA.
I don't know what it's called. I know what it's about. I don't know the acronym for it.
But it's a really cool stat that I like.
Well, too bad it's gonna be gone.
That is true. It's gonna be gone. That was
because you're gonna get something else you like. It's gonna ruin the game of baseball. Yeah, cough it up, fuzzball.
Yeah. Yeah.
I caught him off guard on that one, ladies and gentlemen. You saw it firsthand.
Yeah.
You all right? Down the wrong pipe, eh?
Yeah.
He's dying on there. Hit your mute button for God's sakes. I got really close to the camera. My apologies. Nobody wants to see me that close.
Okay, I'm better. I'm better now. But hopefully that was informative enough and helpful enough.
I mean, that was a good starting breakdown. We definitely have to do another episode now because
yeah, I was looking at there was some oboe.
It's an instrument. No, that's an oboe. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's a lot I would like to go into, but this is the one that I thought every fan should know. It's a good baseline because you hear the guys on MLB Tonight, Brian Kinney, talk about OPS and OPS plus. Don't you talk bad about Brian Kinney?
So I don't use ESPN for my baseball coverage. I use MLB Network.
Well, yeah. Well, Brian Kinney's MLB Network. He used to be ESPN.
Okay. I don't think of him when I think of MLB Network. I think of DeRosa and Amsinger, and yeah, I think of those guys. So I don't think of Brian Kinney. I hear Brian Kinney, I think ESPN automatically.
Well, yeah, because he has that famous interview with Mayweather, where he's like, "You do jack shit." I love Brian Kinney. Anyways, but yeah, he goes into the shredder all the time, and he talks about OPS and OPS plus and BABIP and some of those other stuff. But those are the OPS, OPS plus, ERA, ERA plus, WHIP, FIP, on base percentage. Those are all extremely helpful and more advanced than what you used to have back in 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And it's just a better understanding, like I said before, a batting average was the end all be all. And if you didn't have a good enough batting average, it didn't matter if you had a great on base percentage. First of all, on base percentage didn't exist back in 1950, 1945 or whatever. And so actually on base percentage did. Actually, Branch Rickey created on base percentage. Didn't know that back in 1942. But yeah, so it just wasn't. It's come a long way, and it's a better barometer for players, in my opinion. Now, to judge a player, do you have anything to add at the moment?
Well, I think that the statistical explanations here are very helpful. Because I mean, obviously I follow baseball, so I had a pretty good baseline understanding of the different statistics and what they meant. You definitely provided me on a personal note with some more detail on maybe ways I was misinterpreting or misusing the statistics themselves. I definitely probably won't pay as much attention to WAR now that you explained it to me, because I looked at WAR, I knew wins above replacement, I understood the baseline of it, but I had no idea that there were two different sets. I had no idea that MLB was trying to manipulate the system based off their own WAR setup. So I will most likely disregard WAR in all contexts now. At least unless I'm comparing player to player, like from the same position.
Yeah. it may be useful then, but even then, to me, like I think you need to judge it at the end of the year.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like at the end of the year review, where
Yeah.
let's say we're doing our
Cardinals thing.
yeah, let's say we're doing our Cardinal Chronicles and we're doing our year in review between players because we're definitely going to have we're going to have some year in review depending on if there's any trades at the deadline because of look at the guys we have bouncing around the field left and right. But other teams are having the same thing. So
Yeah.
it provides another deeper insight into the analytics of the game and how it all works. I still think baseball is a gut game. It is an eye game that the eye test will provide you with almost everything you need to know about a team, and you don't need to understand specific statistics. Ooh, that was a weird one. Specific statistics to enjoy the game or be able to coach the game or analyze the game. But I think these little explanations and the work you put in here to even help me further understand the statistics will give me a little bit more of an appreciation for the different statistics that are out there. But I still believe the eye test is the best way to judge a baseball team and a player. At least game in and game out. Statistics are probably better for end of the year reviews or halfway through the year reviews, things of that nature. I mean, they definitely serve their purpose. I mean, let's be real. Baseball is probably the geekiest of the sports. I mean, people say all the time that baseball is a thinking man's game. And just listening to you go through these different advanced analytics shows that if you really want to be a baseball fan and you want to be able to go edge to edge on baseball, you got to be able to understand these advanced analytics, and you got to have a brain that works and functions and can understand some of these in-depth stats. So I think you did good on that, man. I mean, you definitely gave me some things to think about. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Like I said before, like there is definitely a place for analytics in the game, I think. I believe that with no doubt in my mind. And I think it better helps the team figure out what a player does, what a player does well. When they start breaking down what a player does versus left-handed pitchers or in the sixth inning or how a pitcher does in the sixth, seventh, eighth inning or whatever, that's when it starts becoming a little too much like a, not necessarily even a chess match, but it's more of a overthinking scenario. I guess it is more like you're playing chess when the other player is playing checkers. And if you try to overthink it, sometimes it doesn't work out for you. And obviously, take a big raise, but yeah. And one of these days, I would like to talk about Moneyball a little bit more too, because Moneyball was helpful, but it also wasn't the reason why the A's did so well that year. So, anyways,
see, I totally thought you were going to go into a whole Moneyball thing.
I did have some notes about Billy Beane, but I was like, I'm not going to talk about Billy Beane or Bill James right now. But anyways, do you have anything else you want to talk about? Because after this, I'm going to start talking about the June review for the or after this episode, I got to start working on June review for the Cardinals.
Oh, that's so, like tomorrow
there's
night.
That. Mm-hmm. Haven't done anything.
Great. Well, at least I have.
Oh, you have?
I've done a little bit. I told you I'd help you out. But that's neither here nor there because this is the seventh inning.
Yeah.
But that gives you guys a little insight into tomorrow night's Cardinal Chronicles episode. If you're a big Cardinals fan, you make sure you hop on and join us. We want to thank everybody for coming out. Do you have anything else?
I was gonna do one more story, but yeah, you can.
Oh no, do your story. Do your story.
No, continue your thing, and I'll do it in a minute.
Well, I was gonna close us out there. Buddy,
you're gonna try to close us out. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we have an outro today too. Anyways,
close out.
So I saw this Jazz Chisholm tweet, and it made me laugh because at first I was like, "Oh no, this is not good." I thought it was gonna start a whole shitstorm, and it actually is pretty funny. So he says, "How do I still get pulled over by the same undercover cop car in the same spot for the same reason for the past 4 years, multiple times in a row, it really don't even be bad. Officer would be like, you know the drill, as he's laughing. And so he says, it's just funny because we both are always laughing about it. I just be like, if I guess how much I was over, do I get no ticket, right? And so we basically just have a game going now. Cruise control for the win. Uh, anyways, so that made me laugh. Some of the people didn't understand that it was a joke, and they kind of went off a little bit. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you got to call his superiors for harassment." But it was a joke, and it was funny, and it's just another reason why I love Jazz Chisholm. I love him. He's every day he becomes more and more likable in my head.
So is he up? Is he right below Turner
No.
and Soto at this point for you?
No, he's not there yet. He's not no. He's not even at Trout level. Because like I have Trey Turner and Juan Soto. Then I have like just below Shohei and Trout and Arenado and Goldie.
There you go. Numbers 5 and 6 are Cardinals players. This is how you know he's not that biased.
If any, like I've said it multiple times, like my love for the Cardinals is so great that I expect nothing but excellence. So it sounds like I hate the Cardinals all the time. But anyways, and by the way, I hope you remember the name of the podcast, but our CEO Brandon Zaffel. Yeah. He went on to another podcast, talking sports with. Yeah. ...
Yep.
And he went and talked about the rebranding of the Variety Sports Network, no longer the Variety Sports Podcast. It's a good interview. And apparently their guy has been wanting to be on the 7th inning stretch for like ever now. And I was like, I never heard. Do you remember hearing about this? I'd never heard about this.
I mean, I remember rumblings about it, but I didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
But I mean, now I'm ready to get him on if he wants to talk. Just so you know, when he messaged me about on Twitter, I said, "Hey, if you ever need baseball guys, I mean,
he commented or he tagged you in the Twitter post, and I was like, so Josh is on there. That's cool. I'm going to listen to this." And then it was just, which I mean, I was going to listen to it for Brandon too, but I was like, oh, well, Josh is going to talk about it and talk about how great I am. And
no.
Brandon didn't even mention us by name. We're just like, oh, those guys over there.
Hey, he definitely made sure he let everybody know that he doesn't have anything to do with the production of our show.
Yeah, that was nice too.
He trusts us to get the job.
He just throws us into this thing. Yeah, trust us. Anyways, but we're probably going to have him on soon. Maybe for the All-Star game. We're going to talk about that. We are getting guests for the All-Star. For tomorrow night, I don't believe so. But yeah. Okay. So, which is actually good because we're going to do the June review, and then next week, not next week, but the week. Well, yeah, it is next week, isn't it? Because it's after the All-Star game, right?
What are we talking about?
Oh, it is the week after. Anyways, the Cardinals Chronicles after the All-Star game will be a special episode about who we think the Cardinals are going to trade for. Next Monday, we're doing players who are getting traded and where they're going. That's going to be a fun episode because that's my favorite time of year is the trade deadline and guessing where players go.
We have no inside information. We're just making our own recommendations.
No.
But the 18th and the 19th are our 2 big live episodes where we want – I mean, all of our episodes are live, but these are 2 big episodes. We're going to be live streaming while the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game are going on. Obviously, because of copyright infringement laws and rules, we're not going to be able to have the games on the screen while we're talking. But we encourage you guys to get the Derby on, get the All-Star Game on your TV, pull us up, and watch us on whatever platform you're joining us on. We're going to be chit-chatting about the Derby and about the All-Star Game as it's going on. We're gonna have hopefully lots. I know we've got a few guests lined up for each one of those shows, so you're going to see some of our guys from across the Variety Sports Network. We're hoping that we got a couple people that we're talking to from other sports podcast networks to come on and talk with us, and just sit around and enjoy and have a little bit of fellowship for the All-Star events for the MLB.
I was going to do some big bad dig at some other podcaster that shall be named or remain nameless for the moment. But no, forever. Maybe when we get bigger and they are still in the rut.
You don't trash nobody.
Anyways, no. But we're gonna have some big weeks coming up. I'm gonna get no sleep whatsoever, but I am gonna get high, and that's for sure. Anyways, I think that's about it. Josh, you have any parting words of wisdom before we go?
No, just thanks for joining us tonight. Logan, thank you for all the hard work you did to look those definitions and stats presentations up so the rest of us can learn something. Like I said, if you guys have any questions about stats or anything, message us. We'll get some answers to you. We'll either DM you back or we'll cover it in the next analytics episode. But thank you so much. We'll see all of our Cardinals people tomorrow night, and then we'll have another show on Friday. So you guys take it easy, and Logan?
Keep calm and watch some damn baseball. Peace out, motherfuckers. Oh, that's it? Well, that's mediocre.
I thought there was some music there. But I love it. New content added daily. Watch more episodes on the VSN Variety Sports Network. Like and subscribe. You guys take it easy. Have a great evening.
I had to stay for this. Bye.